Today we're going to do a tactical defensive knife class. We're going to be focusing on a lot of different weapons because it's a tactical class. A number of the students and sensei and the other instructors were talking about doing additional tactical classes as we go on. John's been screaming, I want to do knife class, I want to do knife classes. This is a defensive class, this is a beginner's class, and I envision somewhere down the line doing non-defensive tactical classes, okay? So we want your input as to what you would like to do. Ray was on the phone the other day saying, let's do some, tomahawks. So I've got a couple tomahawks here. You'll hear me refer to them as hawks throughout the day, okay? Most martial arts schools teach art form, traditional techniques, and what I call foundation training. The problem is, and we see this in a lot of Aikido schools and other martial arts schools, they never go beyond those three layers. There's never a tactical class which helps people understand what's going to happen in the real world. We're going to be focusing on the knife today, and the way we deal with a knife is very similar to how we deal with a firearm in this class or other weapons, and I'll explain to you in a few minutes what that means. And unfortunately, a lot of the classes show, or a lot of the schools, they just don't understand how to properly use knives. We've all trained in the thrusting technique, okay? But a lot of them show the thrusting technique, but it's not a real way that a knife is going to be deployed. Nobody is going to get a knife, and Eddie's going to be the instructor that I'm going to stab towards. Nobody's going to do this. Nobody's going to go off balance with a knife, hang out there for 30 seconds and let him do a technique. It's just not going to happen in the real world. And unfortunately, most of us, if you've trained in other schools, and I've trained in 3 Aikido schools and other martial arts, this is what you practice all the time. And remember this phrase today. The way you practice is the way you're going to react under stressful situations. So what instructors are doing, and it's not intentional, they're doing it and they're teaching their students to only react to this. Okay? And it's just, and Sensei and I were discussing this, it's going to get people killed because they think it's going to work, and it's not going to work. Okay? There's three, I've broken weapons down into 3 categories. The grasping, so I'm grabbing the knife, the maneuvering of the knife, and eventually the deployment of the knife. And most martial arts schools, and I've gone to a number of seminars, I've trained in a lot of other schools, I've searched the internet, through and out, through and through. And the only thing that they really talk about is going after the knife, not here, but here. And it's just wrong, okay? Because as you're going to see, and we're going to show you in a few minutes, when the knife is in the hands of a practitioner, okay, you're not going to survive once it's deployed. One of our students, Mike, has had many years in other martial arts, and him and I were having an intellectual discussion about this, and he was saying to me he was taught by his instructors, keep at it, and eventually you're going to get the blade. And my response was, yeah, keep at it, and you're eventually going to get the blade buried in your chest. Okay? So you've really got to, and the martial arts world really has to refocus on where they're going after these knives. Okay? You've really got to go at it while it's on his hip and while it's going through that maneuvering phase. If you wait and it's in the hands of a true practitioner, you're not going to survive. You're going to get severely injured or fatally injured, okay? And the reason that I think that most instructors do that, they're not being malicious, most of them don't have practical experience and or they have not been practically exposed with someone that knows what he's doing. Fortunately, the first guy that taught me how to use a knife was in the Italian army in World War I, and all he carried was a knife and 2 grenades. And he used to say to me, it was my grandfather's brother, I have a lot of Hun blood on my blade. The second guy that taught me was Sergeant Major Tyrone Adderley of the 5th Special Forces, probably one of the most highly decorated members of the Green Berets. And a funny story, he said to me, "Tat and Eddie, tomorrow's my anniversary." And I said, "How many years you been married, Sergeant Major?" He goes, "Tat and Eddie, you're an idiot." And I said, "Yes, Sergeant Major, I'm an idiot." I said, "What kind of anniversary?" "That was my first knife wound." Okay? And then fortunately, when I came in and I trained with Sensei Racinko, what he said was very similar to what those two other individuals said, but from a defensive position. So it's very similar, okay? You know, let me talk to you a second about tactical training. Tactical training is brutal, it's nasty, it's barbaric. And I remember showing to one of the students the other day, we were going over how to properly use a knife, and we're going to talk about that. And it is in fact very brutal. And if you don't realize that it's brutal and you think it's something else than that, you're in for a surprise, okay? It's got to be brutal, it's nasty, because someone is pulling out a weapon and they are going to try to kill you, okay? Everybody's got to understand it. It's different than Eddie and I get in a bar fight and we want to punch one another. He's not really trying to kill me, but once he goes after that knife, once he goes after that gun, he is trying to kill me. You have to realize that. And if you take it in a very benign way, you're going to get seriously injured. You've got to ramp it up immediately, okay? Because he's made the decision to kill you. And if we have time today, I'm going to talk about the psychology of killing, okay? There's a whole, the military's done, produced volumes and volumes about that. And if we have time today, I'll discuss it slightly, okay? Let me show you what's going to really happen in a knife fight. Okay, today we're going to talk about some how your body deals with stress, how your body sees, and we're going to talk about how to properly use a knife. And I brought a lot of different knives here so that you as students can see what you may come up against in the street. Okay, then we're going to get into how the body deals with trauma, and then we're going to deal with controlling the knife while it's on his hip and while he's in that maneuvering phase, okay? Let me show you what it's really gonna look like when somebody that knows what he's doing is using the knife, okay? Sheath the knife, put the knife in. Eddie's gonna use what's called a reverse grip. And we'll discuss this a little bit more in about 20 minutes. There's basically two grips. There's a reverse grip, okay? Like this, or they call it the ice pick grip, or there's a hammer grip or the forward grip. And that's it. And the only differences between the two is sometimes where you put your thumb, okay? And everybody says to me, you know, what style should you study? I say there's only two of them, okay? So if you're going to practice with the knife, and John and I were discussing this, you really want to practice both hand grips. Why? Because suppose I only practice the hammer grip and I have to grab my knife and take it out of here. Am I going to say to the fighter that's coming at me, oh, wait a minute, let me change my grip, okay? So there's two grips. So practice both grips, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, okay? So this is what it's really going to look like, and I'm going to break it down. When Eddie goes for the knife, now at Hariki Aikido, we came up with our own knife fighting technique, and we haven't been able to defeat it. What we've done is we've mixed Wing Chun and Aikido together. And most of our strikes are center line. We don't do any of these big movements, okay? I'm sure sometime today I'll make a big movement like that, and some idiot on the internet's gonna watch 3 hours worth of films and say, oh look, he did it! He did exactly what he said not to do. Most of the time, we're doing a very center line cut. Why? Because it's very, you can't really get the knife, and what he's doing, he's flowing around me. He's going to do a quick, we're going to break it down in a few minutes, how I want you to handle the knife. And he's just going to devastate me. And it also enables him, because he's doing center line cutting, to immediately track me. So even if I'm trying to get out of the way, he's just going to track me immediately, okay? So Mike, can you see on the video here?
Yeah, just let me pause it and I'll reset it.